Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pastor Bruce. Welcome to amvoice.net and One Man's Voice. Today is August 16, 2018. And today I want to talk to you about a moron. Yeah, he's a moron. Andrew Cuomo. This man is in charge of a state, the state of New York. He rules over the state of New York. And he gets up in a podium to try to insult the President of the United States and says that America has never been great. Do you know how stupid that is? I don't care if you want to insult the president or not. They call it a gaffe. I call it his real thinking. See, even though people like my father and my uncle who served in the military, one dying over in Europe, my father lived on. About his father, Andrew Cuomo, his father served in the military. And after World War II, we called them the greatest generation in the history of America because we sat there and said, yes, we will fight for the freedom of the world from socialism, from communism, from totalitarianism, from fascism. And we, along with countries like England and the resistance in France and the assistance of Russia, beat back Germany. In Russia, they said, well, now that we won, we want part of Germany, and built a wall to keep them separated from the rest of the country. Did we as Americans do that? No. And when they built the wall, they shut the people off, and the people were starving. What did the American people do? We had the airlift, where we had, I believe it was KC-135s, flying over Germany, dumping food and supplies and medicine into the occupied section of Germany by Russia. We still continue to help. Are you taught that in school? Are you taught how they turned half of Germany into a communist country? In 1980, that wall came down. And when you look at the pictures, if you're smart enough to go in and find them online, look at the faces of the people and the sickness in their eyes for being under Russian control. Because Russia didn't care about Germany. They just made them slaves to them, that's all. They could care less if they died or not. But under a Republican president, Reagan, we got the wall dropped. Again, we're not a great nation. Okay, we're not a great nation. Because what happens when you tell a dictator, a communist dictator, tear down the wall and it comes down? I guess that's not a great nation, not a great leader. The lives that were sacrificed during World War II to give us peace and freedom in this country. They weren't great people, according to Cuomo. His own father, not a great person. How about Martin Luther King? The man who sat there during the civil rights movement and led the marches for civil rights. How about the Republican and Democratic leaders who saw that we needed to make changes to make our country greater, passing the civil rights laws? How about President Lincoln, who knew that the only way that we could survive was to unite as one people? You see, they say that the the Republicans are the one that's separating this country. But idiots like Cuomo is the ones that are separating this country. It's idiots like Cuomo that are coming out with outrageous statements to cause a divisive nature, along with Hillary and Bill Clinton, along with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, along with Maxine Waters. They all are working to divide this country. Why? Because for the first time, they had like a 4 million person lead in the popular vote with Hillary Clinton. So they said to themselves, we have the majority of the people on our side. Let's continue to break down the Republican Party. Let's continue to attack the conservatives. And that's exactly what they're doing. A prime example is the white nationalists that went to Washington, D.C. There was a dozen, maybe 24 people? And they were surrounded by hundreds of Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and name a couple other groups that were there, attacking them because they believed in white supremacy. Now, that's an extreme, people. I really believe that. That's an extreme. White supremacists have been around in this country for a long time, but they're not a large portion of it. But you know what insults white Americans? Do you know what infuriates white Americans? It's all of the bending over backwards and kissing the butt of the black man in this country. That's right. They get fed up. They get sick. They get tired of watching the federal government, the Democratic government, or the Democrats in there, kissing the butt of the black people. And they go, why are they doing that? Why are they giving so much to the blacks when they're taking away from the whites? And think about it. It's Nancy Pelosi. It's Chuck Schumer. It's the Democratic leadership. It's the Black Democratic Caucus that are giving away this country to black people. That's the white thinking. So the small group of white supremacists are out there saying, hey, give back to the whites. Now, you may not think this is happening, but I was listening to a Rush Limbaugh show many years ago, and a girl called up from, I believe it was the University of Wisconsin. And what she was saying was that she's becoming a teacher. They told her in one of her classes that if a black child becomes disruptive in the classroom, you have to ignore it. And the reason for that being, and here's an insult to the black community, the reason for that being is that there are large families in the black community, and they have to be disruptive in order to get attention within the family. Isn't that an insult? This is what a university is teaching about the blacks. And then you have the what we used to call Uncle Tom of the black community, Albert Sharpton, running around every time something happens saying, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist. It's trying to divide this country based on the color of our skin. Andrew Cuomo is doing the same thing with this America that wasn't great. We have to open our eyes, not as a political party. We have to open our eyes as American citizens, which means I don't care what your political party is. Open your eyes to the truth about what's going on. Andrew Cuomo has increased the taxes in New York. Even under his father's reign as governor, he lowered taxes. And who's another moron that's out there destroying a state? Hey, let's call Brown, Governor Brown of California, raising taxes just like Cuomo. The only difference is that there's a sector there that still wants to keep New York a Democratic state, but the old Democratic state under the Kennedy regime, where Governor Brown, he just wants liberalism. He wants the borders open. He wants everything. New York City, under a socialist mayor, has declared New York a sanctuary city. And yet, if you listen to the news reports about New York City, it's deteriorated considerably under de Blasio, the socialist mayor. They want to destroy. That's all they want to do. Destroy, destroy, destroy. Because they're not happy with the baby nation. And that's what we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are a baby nation. 250 years old. Compared to the rest of the world, we're still a baby. And they want the baby nation to fall in line with socialism. Because the other countries sat there and say, you don't have a right to rule over us. Yeah, we do. You're stupid. You're idiotic. You've picked up the wrong financial systems, which have caused, in Italy's case, their monetary system to collapse hundreds of times. And they aren't able to freely trade properly, where Trump is trying to get that. But Americans, Democrats, don't want that. They don't want free trade. They don't want NAFTA rewritten so we're on equal footing with Mexico and Canada. They want to continue to give this country away. Plain and simple. They're the ones that aren't great in this country. And Cuomo, was he in the military? Of course he wasn't. So he has no clue what the military is all about. And how many of these people that are out there, the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter and these other groups that are protesting the right or the conservatives, how many of them served in the military and understood what the military was all about and what we're fighting for? It's an insult, people. It really is an insult that these self-centered, egotistical people like Cuomo, who has no experience when it comes to what real life is all about because he was pampered by his daddy, are trying to create socialism in this country. So the next person I want to talk about is Brennan. Okay. Brennan is the head of the CIA. And he left the CIA. I don't know if he was fired or he just left. I could care less. He's not the head of the CIA anymore. Now, for those people who have no clue about security clearances, let me explain something to you. When I was at RAF Bentwaters in Woodbridge in England, one of my jobs over there was known as the security manager. My job was to ensure that the base was handling classified material properly. Part of that also was to ensure that people had the proper clearances, which I discovered that non-citizens can join our military, but they're not allowed to have access to classified material until they become a citizen of the country. The other thing is that there are people out there that do bad things. Okay? When determining a classification of security for a person, they have to tell the truth. Good or bad, they have to tell the truth. In this one case, a master sergeant was being transferred to another base and they needed an SCSI clearance. And he submitted the paperwork. And on the paperwork, he admitted to doing some bad things, domestic violence, some other violence with his family. Nothing sexual, nothing major. But he admitted to the acts that he was caught in and punished for. His commander heard that he had to apply for an SCSI, and he calls up my office and he says, I don't want him to have a security clearance. And politely I said, it's not up to you, it's up to the board. He doesn't deserve a security clearance. Sir, it's not up to you, it's up to the board. And so when I submitted the paperwork, we waited to hear what was happening. And his commander came to my commander, came to me, and I said, it's not up to us. He's being transferred to a base that requires an SCSI clearance. And because of that, he had to fill out a form called a 394, I believe it is. It's been a long time since I've done this. But he filled out the form, and he told us all of the good and bad things that he was supposed to. And because of that, they came back and they gave him his SCSI. Now, why is that? Because when you tell about the bad things in your life, and some Russian agent or Chinese agent or agent from somewhere comes up and says, we know this about you, we'll use it in order to blackmail you into giving us classified information, you can turn to the guy and say, they already know. They already know. You can't hold anything against me. That's why it's important. So when that SCSI clearance came back for the individual, the commander was up in arms. And I said, it's not the problem with the clearance, it's the problem with the commander. He did not like this individual, therefore, he did not want him to have the clearance. Now, let's say that that individual, same individual, who had a top secret clearance at the time, was remaining with the commander. The commander then could sit there and go, I don't want you to have access to top secret clearance or material. And they had to take him off of that. That's the way the game works. Who you're working for has the authority to either decrease it or leave it the same. But when you're transferring to another base, whole different story. So when it comes down to Brennan losing his security clearance, who cares? He doesn't need it in the civilian world. He's no longer part of the federal government. He no longer needs that unless he's trying to get classified information so he can, on his CNN news broadcast, leak classified information. It was a smart thing to get rid of his clearance. Now, you listen to Comey and some of these other leaders of the Federal Bureau of Investigation sitting there saying, I can't talk about it because it's classified, which means he has a classified classification. Most of the time, SCSI, if not higher. Okay, because they may get into very sensitive stuff, and that's okay because we're putting responsible people in positions that can contain the classified material so it doesn't leak out. Well, Comey openly admitted to passing on information of a private conversation to a friend of his in college, which was leaked to the media. Ladies and gentlemen, he deserves to have his classification taken away from him, because if he's willing to do it with non-classified material like that, and actually that's called confidential. A private meeting is a confidential information. But if he's willing to do it for that, why wouldn't he do it with top secret or SCSI clearance and leak information out? He is no longer with the FBI. He no longer needs his clearance. Andrew, what is his name? Same thing. And Peter Strzok, same thing. They're no longer with the FBI. They no longer need their security clearances. And so they should be taken away. Understand that a security clearance is not for the individual. The individual is for the security clearance. We need to do stuff that's secret, top secret, SCSI secret. And we need people we can trust. We need people we know they can keep their mouth closed and not say anything. So who do we look for? And that's where the 394 comes into it. How willingly are they going to tell the truth? And if they do tell the truth, even if there's bad information, the Security Council will determine and give them the classification or not. And I've seen people come back, no, you're not getting the clearance. So then the commander has to sit there and go, why didn't he get the clearance? Something he didn't reveal, or a place that he didn't go to. My boss, when I was at RF Bentwaters, was being transferred. He was a GS-11, being transferred back to a GS-12 position. He needed an SCSI. And so he had to fill out the 394. Well, I personally know that this individual had gone to Germany a couple of times because why? He has family in Germany. It's his wife's family. And I knew that. I knew there was nothing wrong with it. He refused to put it down. He refused to put down the fact that he'd gone over to Germany like 3 times a year for the last 4 years. And I'm sitting there going, you got to put it down. No, I don't. Yes, you do. They need to know your movements. And so he finally put all of the information down, and in doing so, we sent off the paperwork. But it's like he was trying to hide something. So when the Security Council got his application, they went in, they looked at the trips to Germany, everything was fine, and he was given his SCSI clearance. You see, you got to tell the truth. That's the whole thing. And when Andrew McCabe and the others lie to the American people, they do not deserve to have a security clearance, plain and simple. You have to be truthful and honest. Now, the question is, if they filled out the 394 today, would they put down the lies that they told the American people? I seriously doubt it. I do. See, these are the divisive ones. These are the ones that want to split this country. These are the ones that want to turn us into a socialist nation. And they want the Democratic Party to be the leaders of that socialist nation. And like I said, the only reason it is really coming out today is because they won the popular vote by 4 million people. They believe they have the majority of the people on their side to fight to continue to make this a socialist nation. America is about the underdog. America is about the underdog fighting and winning. The conservatives and the Republicans that are conservative, the Democrats that are conservative, are the underdog now. And the question is, will the underdog win and continue to keep us as a democratic republic with a capitalist system, which has changed the direction of the world, or are we going to go to socialism and take on whatever monetary system they have? It's not going to be capitalism. Okay. Now, last point, and I'm going to close here because I'm a little bit over what I normally talk. But in communism, if you read the book on Karl Marx, his version of communism, you know what they need in order to make communism work? Capitalism. That's right. If you can't make money, nothing's going to work. Maggie Thatcher said about socialism, it's a great belief, it's a great system until you run out of other people's money. Then you have to be able to create your own. And the way the socialists in this country want to do that is literally going to raise your taxes to 67%, 60 to 70%, excuse me, of what you're making. As one moronic millennial was asked, how are they going to pay for the free school and free Medicare? And she said, well, they're going to raise the taxes, and then the federal government has to pay the rest. Where's the federal government going to get the rest of the money on $31 trillion? When they have what happens here, and understand this, once we go to socialism, companies are going to leave this country. Our employment rate is going to go skyrocketing. And people are going to need to be on welfare and food stamps. So you're going to have a nation on welfare getting money from the federal government. They're going to raise your taxes so they have money for free medical and free dental and free schooling. You're talking $21 trillion or $31 trillion, but in essence, if they take control, they're going to bankrupt our nation. There's no way we're going to be able to afford all of this. But they lie to you to make you believe that it'll work. Ladies and gentlemen, turn your back on Cuomo, turn your back on Brown, turn your back on Cortez, on Sanders, on Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. And here, Chuck Schumer is another one, but we'll get into him another day. But the liberals and the socialists have to be stopped. The only other alternative is to vote for the Republicans. So please consider that. Thank you. God bless, and have a great day.